Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Trinh, and I'm originally from Vietnam. At the moment, I'm in Portugal, and here is 5:30 a.m. So
Wow.
you can see that I'm not very,
Wow.
yeah, but I'm really excited to join you today. So
Okay.
here.
Oh, lovely that you can join us so early. Okay.
Thank you.
And there's another Sandra on the.
I wonder if that's is it? Who is that? Is that Salati? No, who is that?
Hi. Yes, it's Alote. Hi. Hello, Sandra.
Your name is Sandra, so I'm wondering.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'll change it. I'm not sure.
No,
I'm not sure how that happened.
I'd love to see it. Introduce yourself, please do.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, I'm just at the airport. I'm rushing to the office.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's
Okay.
on the
So
hour. Should we begin?
Yes. Okay. So a very warm welcome for all of you who've joined from Fiji, from Portugal, from Mauritius. It's so lovely to see all your faces here. And this is a learning circle, which is a platform really for learning. And one of the taglines of New Beginning is forever learning and growing and sharing. So this is the purpose of this learning circle. And I, for my part, have learned a lot about personal courage in preparing this. And I'm also looking forward to learning from you as a collective group. So this is the first time we've actually done this online with Fiji. So I'm really excited about this. So really having this collective group. And with me today, facilitating with me, Sandra and Nazia, and I'll ask you in a moment to introduce yourself. And we will have a very special guest who will be sharing her beautiful story, and that's Angelique. So we'll be hearing her story later. So perhaps I can ask Sandra and Nazia to introduce themselves, and then I'll ask Angelique.
So, hi everyone. Sandra, go ahead.
I was waiting for you, Nazia, beautiful Nazia.
I was waiting for you. So hi, hi everyone. My name is Nazia Haji Abdullah, and I'm from Mauritius. I'm a trainer and a meta coach. So I'm very honored to be with you today, with Mauritian, Fiji people, and I heard there was someone from Portugal. So that is really great. Thank you for joining and taking the time to learn. So I'm really excited to be with you today and to learn with you. As Wyman said, it's also about collective learning. So have a great time and enjoy your session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazia, and Bulavinaka and bonjour. It's beautiful, as Wyman said, so exciting to have two beautiful islands connect online across the cyberspace. And welcome, very happy to be here and see all the familiar faces. And I hope you all enjoy this. The Learning Circle we normally do after most of our trainings. And this particular one relates to the Courageous Leadership training we were going to do. And this is special because we're doing a learning circle before, so even more special. So thank you, everybody, and over to you, Wyman.
Okay. Angelique, would you like quickly to introduce yourself?
Yes, with pleasure. Hi, everybody. I'm Angelique. I'm from Mauritius. I'm a trainer and a meta coach, and Wyman, Sandra, and Nazia invited me for some sharing today, and I'm very pleased to be among you and to learn with you.
Thank you. Great. So our topic today is about unleashing personal courage. So we'll be the three main things we'll be doing today is looking at the what is personal courage, why is personal courage important, and how do you actually do personal courage? What is your strategy for personal courage? So that's the main things that we'll be doing. And there will be times where we'll be putting you to breakout rooms for you to share your experience and build this collective learning. And we'll be looking forward to hearing from you following the breakout rooms. Okay, so let's get started. And I hope you can all see my screen. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Great. Okay, so today we're talking about unleashing personal courage. So before we do that, Nazia, would you want to take this away?
Yeah. So again, hi everyone. So I guess today, as we just realized, you are in different time zones. So some of you might be feeling really excited, some might be feeling tired and sleepy. So before we start, we would like to hear from you. What state are you in right now? So you have this little tree with little humans, and each human has got a number and an associated body language if you observe the little humans on the tree. So I would ask you to put a name, to put
Bonjour, bonjour. Félicitations. Oui, merci beaucoup. Hein? Merci. Oui.
Okay.
Oui.
So, yeah, let me just. So I would invite. I would invite you to mute yourself first, please. Thank you. So could you write in the chat box the number which you think corresponds to your state right now? So be authentic. It's not about looking good or forcing yourself to be the positive state. Just be authentic, just be yourself. So just type in the chat box which little human being best illustrates the state you are in right now. And secondly, beside the number, just write one word that in your perspective describes the state. So Altab, thank you, you said 7. So what is 7 for you? Just type in the chat box. I will invite everyone to do that. The number and the state. I could start first. Mine is 9 and playful. So Trin is saying 15 and motivated. Thank you, Trin. 12 and connecting. Thank you, Angelique. 4, I'm here, relaxed. Okay, Bets, thank you. 10, happy, Rajnil. 5, contemplative and grounded. Interesting. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. It was important for us to check in with your state first, and so that you are better aware of where you are to start that journey. Thank you very much.
So Sandra, you want to unmute?
I'm just saying that your screen, is it on slideshow? Because we can sort of see the heading for some reason, or the top. Okay, carry on.
Someone is operationally pumped. The other Sandra. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Sandra, you want to take this?
So on to you.
Okay, so what we wanted to quickly do before we start is really contextualize what the topic is in terms of the 4 quadrants of systemic development. So if you want to click on there, Wyman, just so that it can open up. There we go. So we're looking at personal courage. So it's an invitation to have a look at what are the 4 areas that you seek courage in. So firstly, in self-development, when you're thinking of self-development, what is it about you? Who are you as a human? So Wyman, I think you can open up the slides. Are you able to click on the, there we go, okay. So in the first block, if we look at you and personal courage and what that means for you, who would you like to become with courage, with personal courage? Who's the person in you in terms of relating to other people? How would you like to relate with others with more personal courage in your life? And then in terms of what you do, so as leaders or family leaders or personal leaders in your role at work, how do you want to show up with more personal courage? And then an even wider system, in terms of the systems that you belong to, how do you influence the systems by having more personal courage? So those are the 4 contexts as we go on to the rest of the slideshow.
And just to say that today's session is being recorded because there are a few people who can't attend. So just for your information, it is recorded, and we will send you the recording as well. So the first thing is to ask, how do you define courage? So this is a definition from Nelson Mandela, and it's about, he says, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And this is Nelson Mandela's definition of personal courage. And we all probably have our own definition of what courage is. So I'll start by asking, how do you define courage? And perhaps your definition of courage will evolve over the course of today's session and evolve as you develop as a human being. So let's ask, so who would like to unmute themselves and have a go at defining what is courage for you? Who would like to have a go?
Hi, Mbula. I'm Salote, and I think my name is still coming out as Sandra, but I'm trying to change that on my phone. For me, fear means, courage means the absence of fear. But as soon as I read Nelson Mandela's definition, it resonated well, because it's a triumph, it's a journey to be able to attain courage. So I like that the second bit, but the triumph over it.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that analogy and metaphor of a journey. Courage is a journey. Thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, so let's go on now.
So there's another beautiful definition, and I found this picture, which for me, if you just look at that expression on that face, that courage is a mind, body, emotional state that will influence your behavior to act in a certain way. So the internal courage that you have helps you in terms of your behavior. And the next, I'm not sure if on the next slide you'll recognize who the picture is, those of you that have seen the movie on Netflix called Adu. It's a beautiful movie about this young little boy who basically loses his mom, gets killed, and he watches her die, and his sister dies, and he's left all alone in this world, and he has to survive on his own. And that picture is the perfect picture that symbolizes in this definition that says courage is a mind, body, emotion state that drives you out of your comfort zone, from inertia into action, and to stand up, to speak up, to face up, and at times just to stay confidently still.
Oops. So this is another definition, and this is something that Angelique shared. And perhaps, Angelique, you can read the definition here.
Yes, I can't see the slide correctly. Is it the quote from Roxane Gay? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can't see the slide?
But I've got the quote. It's okay. You don't need to be brave when you're writing. You need to acknowledge that you're terrified and do it anyway.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. And this is something that you use in your story, but that you'll share in a bit. Yeah, thank you.
And another definition of courage, which I really like personally, is that courage is not the absence of fear. I used to think that courage was about not feeling afraid. But then I realized that we will feel afraid. The fear will be here, but it's all about walking with the fear. And this is a quote from an emotion researcher, Susan David, who did a fantastic TED Talk. We would invite you to have a look at it, where she says that courage is really fear walking, walking with your fears, acknowledging that the fear is here and being okay with it, and walking with it and embracing it so that it's not your enemy, but it might even become your friend. So this is a quote which really, really resonates with how we can manage our fear and even befriend our fear, and walk directly into your fears, walk with your values as your guide, walk towards what matters to you. So if you have your values as your guide, your fear, you won't be afraid of your fear. Actually, you might even, as I said, befriend your fear, understand your fear, nurture your fear. You won't be afraid to feel the fear, because the fear is indicative of something else. So bear in mind that you've got also your values as your guide, which can help you master your courage. So can you hear me?
Yeah. Next, we have the neurosemantics definition of what is courage. So Wyman, can you go on to the next slide? Oh, maybe Wyman has frozen, is it?
Yeah.
Let me have a look if I can get my...
In the meantime, maybe you can all think about situations in your life where you did feel afraid, but where you actually faced your fears, embraced your fears, and where the fear did not stop you from being courageous. And Wyman, as you are ready, we are going to share another definition of courage, which is from the field of neurosemantics, which is quite illustrative as well.
Okay, sorry, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
Unfortunately, there we go. So let's take a look at what is the neurosemantics definition. So what's interesting about what Michael Hall and how he describes courage, he says that courage is a gestalt state, and we'll explain what that means. It begins with a primary state of fear, where there's threat or danger in the external experience. And then there's a meta state of something we value, like love or responsibility. And on top of that, we also meta state an understanding of a risk management. Because he says if we don't do this, if we miss this step, it could just be something like a foolish courage. And I'll give an example. And finally, we metastate the wider perspective. So basically what we're talking about here is these are your fear, something that happens, and it's either something that threatens you physically, and not only physically, this could also begin to explain a psychological fear. So you could have some sort of psychological fear, not really going to be doing any physical harm, but it might be shameful or hurtful, and psychologically you're afraid of that feeling. And once it begins in there, we have the meta states, which are the states of on top of the states that will create a gestalt state. Now, what a gestalt state is basically two or more states that come together as one, and they are different and more than the individual parts. So if you can look at the picture of the two inks, the two colors, and if you can imagine a glass of water, and the water is a state, and the blue ink is another state, and the orange ink is another state. If you put those three, a drop of orange and a drop of blue, into a glass, it no longer is blue, it's not water, and it's not orange. It has become something totally different. And that's what we call the gestate state. So the gestate state that Michael was talking about in his description, the first one is what he calls this state of something we value. So something like a responsibility or something that we really feel that's important to us, a commitment, a dedication, a real why that we do this. What's the why that we should do this or this action or work towards it? And then secondly is the understanding, and is this ecological? Now, very often we're so blinded by the value, we miss this step, the understanding and the risk, which is the rational mind giving us some understanding of the threat that could be more dangerous for us. So a good example here is if the house is on fire and the children are inside and the mom wants to go out to fetch and drives her to fetch the fire, the children out the fire. There's a physical threat, and the value or the purpose that the mother's going to have is the love that she has for her children. And that's going to drive her into the fire to rescue her child. At some point, there's an understanding of where we're all going to die, and I may have 3 children and then they're going to be homeless. At some point, there will be some sort of risk that we value that's going to give us an ecology check in terms of that decision of the moment. And also going with that is that wider perspective, where we then step out and say, what's the actual risk and what's the wider perspective? And that's the intelligences that we have, our ability to react to the systems, our ability to understand all the different levels of intelligence, the spiritual intelligence. And this is where we access the wisdom. So if we think of all these states at one go, is what gives us the courage, right? And it sounds so complex, because it is complex, depending on how great that psychological fear or physical fear or threat is. So this is the neurosemantics definition. And Nazia, would you like to take us some examples through this?
Yes. So courage, when you think about courage, you think of specific context, specific actions. And as Sandra said, it starts with a fear, but then it evolves into other things. You texture the initial state of fear with other states, such as we said, commitment and wider perspectives. And maybe if we give you examples of context, it might be, remember a time where you did speak up in a meeting, but you did feel afraid, but you did it because you textured your initial state with other things like commitment to your values, or it could be the courage to lead according to your personal values, especially in the face of disagreement. Or it might be a time where you had to make a difficult decision. So, but you did it because it was moral and it was according to what you believed, to your beliefs, sorry. Or it might be to hold a difficult or confrontational conversation. This is something that some of us, we really do have a hard time wanting to engage in such a conversation because we might be afraid of what we're going to feel. So here's a good example of a context where we need courage. It might be with a family member, with your spouse, with your boss. And another example where we need courage is to accept and admit our mistakes. This is a great example where the courage to be humble is required for your relationship, to have integrity. Or it might be in the context of confronting a boss, where you might be afraid that there might be retaliation, or you might even lose your job depending on the person with whom you're dealing. So this also requires courage. And the next one is quite interesting, to be still. Sometimes to be silent, to be still, not to do anything can also be part of courage. And of course, in leadership, to lead. So these are some examples, some context where courage is needed. And to carry on with that, I would like to share my own story of where I did need courage. And I don't know if you've heard about a disease called endometriosis. So basically, it's a gynecological disorder where which really affected my energy levels and my general quality of life. I still suffer from it today, and I've been diagnosed with it 2 years ago, and I was on a very tedious treatment, very challenging treatment with hormones, and feeling drained and even depressed sometimes. And endometriosis can lead to infertility. So I had to face the possibility that I might never become a parent. So for me, it was quite challenging, because when you're young, you think those things only happen to others. It doesn't happen to you, right? And my first moment of courage was to accept that I did have it, and that my lifestyle has to be adapted. I have to eat differently. I have to exercise. Well, I don't do it all the time. And also to realize that becoming a parent for me will be challenging. But what I'm doing today is really summoning the courage to accept, and then to be willing to be a mom, because at some point in time, I was so tired with the disease, so drained, that I was also saying to myself that, okay, I won't be able to do that. It's too much work to deal with disease and to be a parent and to do my treatment, or even before I become a parent, to face the possibility of not being able to have a child. So for me today, I'm still in that situation. And this is a context where I had to courageously be with my emotions and courageously do what's right for my couple, and really not only be courageous for me, but be courageous for other people as well, my own parents, my husband. So this is an example of a context where I'm still using the resource of courage. And for this learning circle to be really impactful, we want you now to think about a context where you feel that you need courage. Maybe you are already facing the situation, or you will face the situation. So think about a context where it might be related to your health, to your family situation, to a decision that you have to make at work. So where is it that you need courage? Because the more grounded your experience is, the more you'll be able to apply the tools we'll give you today. And to do that, we are going to put you in breakout rooms where we will invite you to speak from the heart. Speak from the heart, and just share where right now do you feel you need that resource. Anything else you want to add, Wyman? Thank you for your acknowledgement, Ume. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mira.
Yeah. So just while Sandra's setting up the breakout rooms, so each one of us has our own definition of courage, and perhaps, I mean, at this moment in life, we perhaps have a context where we need more courage. So this is what we'd like you to share in the breakout rooms in a moment, and each one is on their own journey of unleashing your personal courage. So this will perhaps allow you to define that more.
So in the meantime, you have a few minutes to think, a few seconds to think of your own context, and feel free to be authentic, to be yourself, because this is a safe space, and you have a chance today to really speak about what's on your heart and where you feel that you need courage, and will help you today to develop, to identify your strategy of courage. So take a few minutes, not even minutes, in a few seconds, you'll be in breakout rooms, but take that time to just, if you want to, if you have a pen and a piece of paper, maybe just to think about, where do I need courage right now?
Sandra, you're muted. Sandra, you're muted.
The rooms are created.
Yes.
Are
Yeah.
people moving?
Yeah, people are moving, but so I can see that Mira hasn't joined. So let me okay. Let me just
So room 12 is fine. Devi's got Sela and Dev, Aquila and Altar.
Yamini's on her own. Let me move Yamini into room 6.
Move it into, hang on, move them into room number 9. Can you move her into 9? Is Yamini on her own?
Yeah, she's on her own. Okay.
I see Sanjeev is not. Sanjeev, are you here? Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Hi, Sanjeev. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So we're just in the middle of an activity in a breakout room.
Okay.
You can
Where-
move you to one of the rooms.
How do
You
I
can
join?
Join in the discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, how do I join the room?
Yeah, we'll put you into room. So the question here is, where do you need more courage? In what context?
Okay.
So Sandra, you're going to move.
Moving into room 2, yes, because I see that Nazia was with Anna.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough time to.
Okay, so okay, let me just stop.
Now time, did you measure the time? Oh, and stop recording. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back.
Sandra.
The Aurora, hello. Nice to
Hello,
see
Sandra. How are you? It's
you.
nice to see you all.
Hello, very nice to see you, Oro.
Hi, Nazia.
Okay.
Sandra, I'm a little bit conscious about time.
Yes.
So, yes.
We're moving straight into our next section, which is, are we going to, we'll leave the debrief of this particular one for when we do our next debrief. I think let's move on so that we can get as much as possible out of the session. The next thing we wanted to share with you is, let me get my screen there, is the types of courage. So there are many different types of courage. So we'll take you through quickly the different types of courage that we may find. Wyman, would you like to start?
Yeah. So this was really interesting when I found out about the 6 types of courage. The first type of courage is physical courage. So it's a courage where, despite of the fear or risk of physical harm, that you still do it. Like, for example, climbing Mount Everest, there's a lot of physical exertion and you'd need oxygen. So this is physical courage. And then the next one is social courage. So social courage about exposing yourself to social situations where you may be vulnerable to embarrassment, ridicule, or discomfort. And this was an example of the Japanese princess Matiko, where she actually married a commoner. So she had to give up her title and all the privileges as a royal and live as a commoner. And that takes a lot of social courage to do that.
So the next form of courage is what we call emotional courage. It's allowing ourselves to feel the full spectrum of human emotions, because in some situations we might try to protect ourselves by appearing aloof, uncaring, or disconnected. In fact, if I may sum up what emotional courage is the courage to feel anything. So what I want to ask you here, what I want you to invite you to think about, what's your relationships with what we call unresourceful emotions? Can you give yourself permission to feel? And are you willing to feel? And an example we could give you here is about public speaking. So public speaking in some people can elicit, emotions of anxiety, of fear, of nervosity, of being nervous. Can you hold those difficult or unresourceful emotions? Or do you want to push them away, to ignore them, to suppress them? So this is really about giving yourself permission to feel and be willing to feel many different emotions. This is what emotional courage is about. And the next type of courage is what we call moral courage. So it's really the courage to stand up for your convictions, despite the sense that it may end badly for you. And an example of moral courage is Malala Yousafzai, which, as you know, has been shot in the head by Taliban terrorists. And after her operation, her surgeries, she went to UK. And she said that she could have started a new life, a quiet life there. But she chose to continue her fight until every girl could go to school. And she even founded with her father the Malala Fund. And today she's well known for that battle, that cause that she has around the world. And she was even awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in December 2014. So it's really, really the courage to say yes to things that might, things that are right, in fact. Choose right over wrong. This is what moral courage is about.
Thanks, Nadia. And the fifth type of courage is intellectual courage. So this is about the willingness to learn, to understand, and those of you that have done Coach NLP, all the different perspectives that you can gain, and also the courage to keep learning. And sometimes it's learning about yourself, learning about different people. Today, we've got things where we have such polarized views of things. And with the way we communicate with internet, there was something that I actually had to go and Google what cancel culture means. And all the confirmation biases, and cancel culture today is where you publicly humiliate somebody that is well known just because they've said something that you don't like. So it's this ability for us to keep being courageous enough to keep learning and having that open mind, that learning mindset. And the last type of courage that we have linked to this is the spiritual courage. And with spiritual courage, we talk a lot about, Ken Wilber talks about growing up, which is a lot with the intelligences of ourselves and our capacity to keep learning our different lines of intelligence. Spiritual courage is something else. This is about learning about spirituality, being open with beliefs of different religions, understanding them, and being more inside. And one of the deepest part of emotional courage, spiritual courage, is about awakening your conscious and unconscious life. This is really working with shadows, doing the deep work of your blind spots, the things that you know that you need to work on and you tend to ignore, you don't want to see, or that's too hard to see. Having enough spiritual courage to keep growing yourself. So those are the 6 types of courage that we thought was really interesting when we were understanding this topic further.
And
I think, sorry, Nazia, I'm just going to say, should we carry on and go through, because I'm just mindful of time, hey?
Yeah, carry on.
One.
So first you can click on the next slide, Sandra. Yeah. So here we have a very special guest with us, and this Angelique, and she's been on a journey, and in her journey she has put together a book, and this is, for me, this was a beautiful story of personal courage, and that's why I've asked Angelique to come and share with us what this is all about for her. So Angelique, are you there? Can I say?
Yes,
there?
I'm there. Mhm.
Okay, great. So Angelique, I'm going to ask you two questions. First of all, to share very briefly your story of personal courage, and the second one is for you, what is your definition of personal courage? So let's start with the first question. So could you share briefly your beautiful story of personal courage?
Yes, I can, but I'm shaking and I'm trembling.
Yeah.
I'm working with Atia to speak for now.
Thank you.
Okay, so the book and actually the story is about sharing my resilience path after having experienced when I was a child, when I was 7, having experienced rape. And so I think really the first type of courage, or the first step, is to speak, and it's still quite hard for me to speak even after so many years. And then of course it was writing my story, and I've been writing since 10 years ago several poems, and it's about speaking, writing, and then I published the book 2 weeks ago, so it's very, very recent, and I'm still processing this stage for me, and also I hope so, and actually it's the case today when we are having this conversation. It's really opening conversations about sexual aggression and rape on women and kids. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And
thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And really, my definition of courage is getting, actually, yes, just managing the fear and following a bigger purpose, actually.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you, Angelique, even showing up today to personal courage, and that's what I really admire about you. So I'm hearing that this is your journey of resilience, and personal courage was a key element, key thread that allowed you to do that with a purpose in mind. That's what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. So acknowledging what happened to you, speaking up about it, writing about it, and then publishing the book. So all of these at each stage took what I'm hearing, a lot of personal courage to do that. And courage in different types of courage I'm hearing as well.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Even
today, being here, shaking, you still had the courage to speak. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you, Angelique.
Thanks, and thanks for the encouragement that I received from Bex just a few minutes before, and she said, "No, you'll make it."
Oh, thank you.
And yes, really speaking, I think speaking in this situation, and I'm sure it's the case for all the children and the women having experienced that aggression, is you feel very ashamed, and you feel very frightened about speaking, because in most cases the aggressor just force you not to speak and threatens you if you speak, actually. And in my case, it was if you speak, you'll go to hell. And I was brought up in a very religious family, so going to hell was like the worst thing I could experience. So, and yeah, so I think speaking is really getting more and more freedom about this situation of, okay, nothing will happen to you. You won't go to hell, and you won't. There's no danger of speaking, actually. Yeah.
So I'm hearing at the time, with all this fear of, the repercussions of speaking up, you still did it, and what I'm hearing, it allowed you even more freedom.
Yes, not immediately, because at that time, so I was 7, so I spoke to my mom, and she was so devastated by anger that I thought at that time it was anger towards me, and so it was really a feeling of shame and guilt. And of course, now I know that she was angry towards this person, of course, and potentially perhaps angry against herself of not having been able to prevent that to happen. And but now when I think about that today, it was really driven by keeping a trustful relationship with my mom by speaking and by telling her what happened, and it was, I think it's very valuable that of course I could speak and that she could and that she believed me actually. Yeah.
Yeah, gosh. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Angelique, for sharing that. And we'll come back to you in a moment to share the why of course. So thank you very much. And for me, you are a great model of personal courage.
Oof, I'm trembling. Thanks for this space.
Yeah, thank you. So,
We'll come back to Angelique to ask her about her big why. But before we do that, I want to ask you, based on the context that you chose in the breakout rooms, what is your big why of courage? What does courage do for you? What's the difference in your life if you choose to embrace courage? What benefits are there to being courageous? What are you foregoing if you do not muster your courage to go forward? So I would like you to think, take a few seconds to think, what if I choose courage? What does it do for me? What type of person, who do I become? And what can I unleash in my life? Because we heard that Angelique unleashed so many things. She unleashed her own potential to heal and her own healing. She just said that I realized that I'm not going to go to hell because I've spoken. She just said that. She also said that she was trembling to come on this platform and to speak, but she did it. So she chose courage. So today we've got, as Wyman said, a role model of courage in different aspects, be it in terms of her speaking up, writing the book, publishing, and coming to speak out, and really encouraging people to speak about that topic so that it discourages that silence, which is toxic for families, for couples, for women and children. So what's your big reason? Do you feel the energy of wanting to be courageous? What's your big why behind courage? For me, fighting endometriosis was about being able to be a mom and being a more accomplished person. So I have my vision of my big why in front of me. So what's yours? So think about it for a few seconds. Do you feel the energy, the motivation? Is it strong enough for you to want to choose courage and go for it and choose whatever thoughts, whatever beliefs, whatever behaviors, actions that you feel your courage demands? On a scale of 0 to 10, how far do you feel the motivation to be courageous? So Angelique, coming back to you, can you please tell us, what is your big why in that beautiful journey of yours? What drove that motivation of yours to be that courageous? Please share your story with us.
I think I had several big whys, depending on the different phases of my life relating to that story. The first one, it was really keeping a trustful relationship with my mom by telling her what happened. Afterwards, when I got engaged. So I decided to tell my story to my fiancé at that time, because I thought it was very important to, what it's a life decision, and it was important for me to tell him this part of my story so that he could decide if he would want to go forward with this relationship. So it was really building a trustful relationship with my fiancé, who's now my husband. So, and then I engaged in therapy for years and years, because the big why behind that, it was really to be a good mom and to be mentally fit to raise my children. So that was another big why. And then I decided 10 years ago to report the case to the police, even if I knew the proof was very difficult to get after so many years. It was like 25 years after the facts. And but the big why was really getting my power back. It was really, okay, that happened to me, and I can choose and I can decide what I want to do with that situation, with that experience. And it was really also to give a strong signal to the family, because what happened, it was internal to the family. So it was a person from my family that raped me. And I realized that there was really very toxic family patterns going on in my family. So I wanted to disrupt these toxic family patterns, of course, for my kids to be out of this pattern. So that was another big why, disrupting the family patterns. And that's why I got to the police, really to give a strong signal to the family that law we need to apply law even in the family. People from the family won't be exempted of laws. So of course, another big why was really to get freedom and to decide, as from trauma, as from this situation, what I want to do with that. I can't change things that happen, but what I can do is to the attempt of this book was really to create something beautiful out of something that was so tellement moche, quoi. Sorry, I can't find the word in English.
Ugly, right?
Ugly, yeah.
Yeah.
And now the big why by publishing is really to contribute to the creation of a better society. So to add my contribution, even if it's a small drop of water in the ocean, but add my contribution to the society. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Angélique. And from what I hear, you've got different levels of whys, right? You said it was about trust with your mom first, to be authentic with your husband, to be a good mom, to disrupt family patterns, to get freedom from it. And the highest level of why that I heard was really to contribute to a better society. So thank you so much for sharing the energy of your whys. And we felt it. I don't know for you guys, but I did feel it when she was speaking. So for you, it's really about inviting you all to really reflect about your big why before we address what is coming just afterwards. It's our next topic. So Wyman, what about the how? We spoke about the what of courage. We spoke about the why of courage. Angélique help us understand it better. So how do we do courage? What about the strategy?
So, you know, before coming to this, to preparing this learning circle, I really hadn't thought about a strategy for unleashing personal courage. And I think what is important here is when you're in that fear and you're shaking, what is your strategy to unleash that personal courage? Because in the moment you may be not conscious of what you're actually doing. So for you, you can actually have a conscious strategy that perhaps you have steps and that you've practiced. So this is the importance of actually having that strategy. So in the moment of fear or in the moment where you need to unleash your courage, is to have that strategy clear for you consciously. Because what I realized for myself, I actually had a strategy, but it was very much unconscious. So here what we're going to do is ask you 2 questions to think of strategies that perhaps didn't work for you, that you realize that you've done, and perhaps think about also strategies that worked. So we're going to put you into breakout rooms, and there are going to be 2 questions that we'd like to ask you. The first question is, think of a time when you lacked the courage, perhaps, to confront a situation. And think about what were the thoughts and feelings and actions in that moment that actually stopped you from being courageous. And then when you've done that, think of a time when you were courageous, that you were able to move from inertia to action, where you were living out your values, and thinking about what were the thoughts and feelings and actions that you took in that moment that worked for you, that you were able to unleash that personal courage. So we'll invite you to think about those two situations, and we're going to put you back into the breakout rooms as before, where you can spend around about 6 minutes to discuss that. And then what we'll do after that, then we'll come back and debrief, and we'll also ask Angelique of her strategy of unleashing personal courage. Okay, great. Any questions before we go into breakout rooms?
So,
Sandra, do you want to add anything?
No, we'll put you in the breakout room. If we rudely pull you out, it's because somebody's on their own, and then we'll put you with someone. So just to frame that, but enjoy the conversation. Do you all have the questions? Did you want to maybe put this slide screen in? Or, so it's really thinking about the time when you had a good strategy, and a time where you did have courage.
Screenshot that if you want. So you have the questions.
And what was your strategy? So going into the specifics of how did you have the courage to do what you did, and what was the strategy? And then we'll come back to unpack, and we'll ask Angelique to help us with that as well, and then we'll come through. So let me put you all back into your rooms. I'm opening up all the rooms now. Welcome back, everyone. Aquila, nice to have you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Oh, Trin, so nice to see you.
Hello, Sandra. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So as we're getting back, how was your discussion? How did it go? And perhaps we're gonna open it for 1 or 2 people just to share with us what were some of the success strategies that you had. Was there anyone that shared a strategy of how they were able to stand up to courage or execute their personal courage that they can share with us? Was there any successful strategies you heard, or from your person you partnered with, that you were impressed with their strategy?
Yeah, I'll go if that's okay, Sandra. So I actually partnered with Omei. I hope I'm saying the name correctly. So she was actually telling me about her vulnerabilities, and she said her strategy is really accepting that she is vulnerable, and with so many situations that she encounters. And she actually said that just by accepting that is her, and not trying to be somebody else, is a strategy that's really worked for her.
Wow, fantastic. That's lovely. Thank you, Lamona.
And Sandra, I'm conscious of time. I don't know if we'll have time for more sharing.
Yes, let's move right on. And with that, I'm going to invite Angelique again, just to share with us. You shared so beautifully, and thank you again for your lovely story. And really wish I could read your book. Waiting for the English version to come out. And you took us through so many areas, right? Even from just today talking, you were saying your hands were shaking, and it was, you know, you haven't done it often. Your book's still new. So this is one of the first times you're opening up, and we're honoring that. So if you think about how you overcame that, even this simple action, or even perhaps you want to share when you were 7 years old, and as you said, the trust, what was the motivation and what you valued when you spoke to your mom, or the time where you spoke to your husband, then fiance, or even the time that you went to the police station to report it, even though it was so long ago. Thinking about that, you shared so many of the big whys with us. Is there anything you can share about the how of that strategy of any one of those times? What can you share with us?
Yeah, so when I think about that now, some un peu de recul, so if you can translate with, I think that there was big values, these big whys that were driving me, and the main one was really being healthy and fit and a good mom, and what will be the legacy for my kids, the family legacy. This was really, I think that it was not a conscious strategy, it was unconscious, but it was these drivers were very important. And I think the conscious strategy was focusing on one step at a time. I didn't have the big picture of all these stages. It was focusing on, okay, what can I do to feel better? What can I do to resolve this situation? So it was really, I remember more than 10 years ago when I was in therapy, and the psychologist told me that among the patients who have experienced sexual aggression, those who could really heal were those who managed to go to the police to report the case. And at that time, it was completely unthinkable for me. It was, no, I would never be able to do that. So I was very, very depressed, and I thought, okay, but anyway, I won't be able to report to the police. What's the aim anyway? It's like so many years ago. And then speaking of my story in front of a policeman who are not very empathetic, and bringing the case to court, and facing his lawyer and everything, and facing the family reactions also. So it was really, at that time, I thought it was really, it would have been really impossible. And then, okay, focusing on only this objective, and okay, so I managed to do that. And then, okay, I'm still alive, I'm still okay, so what can I do next? And it's really like one step at a time, and not seeing the big mountain, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to go forward. It was really only the next step. Yeah. And I think also what happened if I can speak of a strategy now, is identifying the greater risk. What's the greater risk? For example, if I don't speak, I'll stay alone. I'll stay with my problem alone. I will have to deal with that alone. But if I speak, I will get the support of other people. But of course, it can be a greater risk, because I would be exposed to negative reactions also. But okay, so taking the least risk. And I remember when I was thinking about publishing, and I was really thinking about the ecology for my family, because it's not, I'm not only exposing myself, I'm also exposing my kids and my husband to what people would say, you know. And then I spoke to a friend, and she told me, okay, she asked me, can you afford not to publish the book? Can you emotionally, can you morally afford not to publish the book? What's the greater risk actually for you? What's the greater cost actually for you? And it's really managing the costs and managing the risks. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Angelique. And as I'm listening to you, I am thinking about the model that we originally put up, and how in neurosemantics we talk about tracking, and we talk about modeling. And what you've just given us an opportunity with your beautiful story and your heartfelt story is an amazing opportunity to model courage. And that's really what neurosemantics is about. So in the last few minutes that I have, let me put up the summary slide of that definition that we spoke about earlier on, and take your example and see how we can model from you this courage and what you've shown and taught us. And in your specific example, your fear, your primary state fear, was a huge risk. It was a huge threat, a physical, emotional, one of the probably highest threats a woman or man, child can go through. So, and if you look at that in the types of stress and the types of courage that we went through earlier, it almost touches on every single one of those types of courage. You really had all 6 in one, from the moral courage, the intelligent courage, the spiritual courage, which then probably came out much later, but that physical courage, the emotional courage. So it really showed how you did that. And what was beautiful from your story, and you just told us now in the how, was your big whys that you actually mentioned were sometimes unconscious, but they were deep in terms of the trust you wanted to build with your mom that drove you to the action. And also what was interesting for what you also mentioned, I mean, you just spoke about risk, and I was saying, oh my gosh, she's just, what she went through, it fits in exactly to what we want to learn today about courage. How you said, one step at a time, because if you look at the whole picture, you would not be able to move. It's that inertia state that we get into. So being able to take one step at a time consciously, while holding this unconscious deep belief, core value of yours. And then you spoke about looking at the greater risk, which is exactly what understanding the risk and ecological part of us. And you did that so beautifully by saying, what do I risk by going into the police station and reporting, and what don't I risk? What happens if I don't do it? And also how it took you time before your own, you had enough of that courage, strength to actually go and do it. And that's what drove you. So it was interesting to see how the risk helped you with that risk managing. And what your friend says, what if you don't? Which again comes into the wider perspective. And what I also heard you saying was how that helped you with the big why again, because you mentioned that the system, what you did by this difficult way of actually talking about it and writing a book about it and going to the police station, you exposed a toxic family system. And not only your family system, but by everybody who's going to read your book and feel those words, probably a wider system, a wider community, a wider world. So how you took those perspectives into the account, and it helped you in terms of your courage, in terms of writing that book that now we all can read, and so many children out there, or even adults that went through something similar. So it was beautiful to hear how you unpacked this strategy, this model for us. So thank you so much for doing that. And then to summarize this learning circle today, how we started from defining what personal courage is, to the levels of personal courage, to the types of courage, to why, what's the big why, the value of courage, to the how of courage, the strategy of courage, and how do we include that into wider perspectives. And I saw this beautiful quote this morning, actually, that says, fear is a reaction and courage is a decision. And even if it's a decision that comes over time, a decision that is carefully well thought, step by step, it's something that no matter what our own courage, because what we heard today with Angelique's story was a huge, a number 10 scale courage. Sometimes even the small little courages, like we spoke early on, the ones we fight every day, that difficult conversation we don't want to have, that allowing ourselves to put ourselves in front, to lead, to put our presence where we know it deserves. So that was a beautiful opportunity for us to model courage. So thank you, Angelique, with your beautiful story. How
Thanks
does it
for holding
sound?
space for that story, and it helps me to speak, actually, to get like this platform of people who are so caring and supportive, and so thanks for that opportunity to speak out. And there was a question if my book will be sold at Book Court. Actually, no. If you want to get the book, please contact me on Messenger or on Facebook, and I will organize so that we can get it. Yeah. Thanks for that very much for this this platform.
Well, the time is almost ended and we're going to really wrap up. Wyman, do you want to chat a little bit about what the program that we had postponed and that we're going to be having later on?
Yeah, so we had originally organized a workshop on unleashing personal courage or courageous leadership last month, but we had to postpone it because of COVID in Mauritius. So one of the things that we'd like to share with you is some tools for you to really ground your definition of what courage is, your big why of courage, and also your strategy of how to unleash personal courage. And we have 6 tools that we'll share with you. Don't know, Sandra, if you want to briefly outline this one.
Yeah, so what we have planned in our Courageous Leadership, this is going to be over 3 modules. And that's going to be the first tool we want to give you is an opportunity for you to plan your matrix, your courageous leadership matrix, so that you can walk out with your individual, knowing how do you frame and how do you have this built, this really powerful, courageous matrix, so that it can lay out in all your future types of courage you may have to confront. So that's one of the tools that we're going to be sharing. And then the next one, let me get that. There you go.
And the next one is something developed by Robert Keegan. He talks about immunity to change. So there are a lot of unconscious factors that actually hold us back from change. And he talks about unconscious competing commitments and assumptions that you have that really hold you back from making change. And we'll use this in the context of what are the things that hold you back from unleashing your own personal courage. So there is a strategy and a map that we will take you through to lead you to becoming more aware of what are the unconscious barriers that you have for yourself.
And then the next one, oops, what is that? Then the next one is the polarity map. This is working from Bina Sharma, Vertical Development. They've got an amazing tool which we're going to share about taking polarities and looking at your strengths and the polarity of that strength, and forming for yourself a tool that you can use. And once you know how to do a polarity map tool, you're able to do that for all the polarities. And once you know how to look for polarities, you see them everywhere. So that's one of the tools. Then Nazia?
Need to unmute, Nazia.
Yeah, sorry. So the fourth tool is about emotional courage. As today, maybe you have noticed that one of the recurrent themes is fear. So we'll give you a tool, a thinking strategy to help you, not only with the fear, it might be other unresourceful emotions. So how to hold those unresourceful emotions so that you decide to be courageous. So this is another tool that we will speak about in the training session.
The fifth tool is about mindsets for personal courage. So we take you through 6 different mindsets, and again, linking it to the theme of personal courage. So that's one of the tools. And the last tool is the 8 levels of growth. So this is stage development or spiral dynamics. We're going to take on those methodologies and go through each one of the levels and look at what can we gain as we grow through the 8 levels. So that's just a little bit of a teaser in terms of what is coming up for some of you have already, that are on this call, have already registered for that training, which we now just need to rearrange and give you the new dates for. So that's come to the end of our session, and we are 2 minutes up, but we're available to stay on for another 5 minutes for those of you that want to chat or ask a question. Those of you that have a hard stop, then we understand. You can just say your goodbyes and let us know. It's wonderful to have so many people from all over. So that's it. Thank you.
And perhaps before you go, perhaps put in the chat box, what's your takeaway from today? What's your learning from today? And if you have time, you can unmute yourself and share.
And while we're waiting, any questions? Anyone that is on the show and you've got energy still and you want to ask Angelique or any of us a question, please do. Or just share about personal courage, anything that's your takeaway that you took away from our session. What was the key one thing that for you was really amazing or wonderful?
Yeah, I mean, Angelique, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, it's, you know, one can only, maybe can't even imagine what you had actually gone through, and sharing and having the courage to actually do all the things that you've done. And I think sharing your story, Angelique, and Sandra, you actually just going through it, dissecting it and analyzing it makes this topic, this concept, what's going on in our minds and how we handle it, from the why to the how and the strategies we put in place. I think it's just so much more clearer. So thank you for that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jackie. Nice to see you again in ages.
Thank you. You too.
Anyone else? I mean, we're just here for anyone who still wants to say a hello. So I see Anna shared her takeaway.
I want to share one takeaway. When I joined this morning, I wasn't feeling anything in particular. I'm feeling very energized now. So thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Jackie. So any other sharing? Naomi, Ubet, Sela, Rajnil.
We have great things on the chat box, Sandra. Takeaways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Want to read them for us, Nazia? Which one?
Yeah, Anna says, takeaway from today is adding more resources to our strategies. And for personal courage, balancing motivation strategies, as well as finding a really compelling why that fits in the bigger picture. And Altab says, my takeaway has been knowing about the different types of courage that's out there. It makes me understand and train people around it.
Mm.
Yeah. And Aquila says, that's really interesting. Her takeaway was about the Gestalt state, especially the metastating and understanding of a risk management to prevent foolish courage. Thank you for that.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining, and I really wish to also say a big thank you for Angelique for joining us and having the courage to share her beautiful story. And most of all, thank you for writing the book, because I already know the impact it's making to so many other people. So thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. And I hope to see you all again very soon. I don't know if you want Sandra and Angelique and Nazia to say anything.
Trinh, thank you for waking up so early in the morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for inviting.
Thank you, everyone, for your sharing.
Thank you.
And now I'm not shaking anymore. I'm fine. So thank you very much.
We could carry on for hours.
Sorry?
We could carry on for hours. Like this.
I'm not sure for hours.
Bye.
Take care.
Oh, Angelique, one of the things that I've actually forgot to mention is, and what I took away last time was your beautiful chapters in your book, when you spoke about the wind and the waking up and the resource of writing, finding back the child and the confrontation, the resilience, and then taking it off. I think that's beautiful. Do you have poems in every chapter, or how
Yeah.
you just the story?
There's 22 poems, and it's of course it's telling a story. So the first part is about the aggression, of course, and then all the stages of resilience. So there are poems in every stages, and then you can follow the story. Yeah. And there's drawings also I also drew some illustrations also.
So they're your drawings?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Naomi and anyone want to share anything before
So of course,
go?
don't hesitate if you want to have more details about the book.
I'm going to stop recording now.